right, that's the end of Gen 7 for us. I think it's definitely the end of it.
The end. We died or something. I don't. Did she kill us?
Yeah, she put a bullet through her head
or whatever
as she was talking about democracy or something. I don't know.
Okay, so Gen 7, where to start? Well, it had an okay start, and then it kind of went down from there for pretty much everybody that played. Of course, we're the only two doing the reviews, but real quick, Steven and Gary both gave it a thumbs down. I guess I'll jump in. I thought, concept-wise, let's start it with the good stuff. The concept-wise, it was cool. Story-wise, I thought the story was cool. But I guess at its very base with the dice mechanics, it wasn't bad. But all that being said, I don't know. It left a lot to be desired in my opinion. I felt the biggest word that kept going through my head was the game just felt clunky for me.
No, I agree.
I feel like every single time we played, and I would say the biggest gap we had before sessions was maybe 2 weeks. I think was our biggest gap. We never went longer than 2 weeks without playing.
There was that one time where I was out of town for 2 or 3 weeks. I think that was the...
All right, well, maybe one time there was a maximum of 3. But it never went a month without playing or anything like that. And where I'm going with this comment is that every time we played, we felt like that we were trying to refigure stuff out. Are we playing this right? Do we remember the rules? And in my opinion, if you have to, like, if it's not clicking that late in a game that you're playing hours at a time, it's not like it's a 5-minute game either. It's kind of like, I'll compare it to Gloomhaven. We'll go a month without playing Gloomhaven, sit back down at the table, and all the rules for the most part, unless there's something we haven't seen before, come right back.
The only thing that we always question is monster movement, but that's been every time. So, but I get what you're saying. It does come back. It's super simple,
right? And to your point about monster movement, every time we question that, it's because there's a situation that we haven't would it go through or whatever. I mean, that's that's the whole target, line of sight, and all that kind of crap that goes along with those games. And honestly, Gloomhaven does that pretty well in terms of keeping it simple. And even if you make up your own rule, it's not gonna. It's not. I mean, every once in a while we'll get a comment, you did that wrong, and I think half the time we're like, I don't care, I'd play it the same way, or oh, if I remember, great, I'll do it that way. But it didn't affect anything. I just felt like. It's kind of a letdown because the story was really cool. If you watch us play the whole thing, the whole idea of waking up and then is the computer system bad, finding a lost colony.
Well, I thought it was cool because when you start, it's you wake up, all you have to do is your job and everything's going to be fine. And you get that sense of, oh yeah, everything's good. And then the story starts saying, oh, the computer is doing something different.
Right.
And then people start missing or are turning up dead. And it's like, oh crap, something's happening.
Right.
And I thought it immersed me really well into the story with that part.
Yeah, but then when you started playing the game, you're like...
Yeah.
Well, and that was the problem. I mean, I hope there's some people that, watch this stuff and said, you did all this wrong or something. Not that... Not. I'll be honest, this thing's probably done for me, even if somebody tells me I played the whole game wrong, because... I feel like I couldn't have got that much, there is so much of the game where you felt like, I can't do anything. I have to do this every single time. If I take a chance and go over here, or try to get new cards, or try to take care of this, then, it's like, oh, setback. Which brings me to the whole setback thing. If you watched all our episodes, we went through every episode until the last game. 0 setbacks. It didn't seem like it paid off at all.
No.
The last episode ramps up like you would expect it to. I mean, you don't want it to be a cakewalk,
right?
But you don't want to sit there in a game and be like, I see no way out. Literally no way out. It doesn't matter if I roll hot. It doesn't matter if we sit there and debate on how to do it.
It's like even if you could do what they wanted us to, they threw in a mechanic where your resources are getting robbed every turn.
Yeah,
and
we never figured out how to deal with that. I mean, I think you had the closest idea was like, oh yeah, but if we go to these places without our guns, then they won't come in. And that's the way that it's worded. They just won't come in. It wasn't like if you put a gun there, they still come out and go to the recovery room. Which, that would have maybe been better. Because then this lowers.
Oh, and it pulls them out.
And it pulls them out. So then you have a chance to actually do stuff on the board and maybe rob them at point in time. But as far as we know, the rules didn't state that. Rules. This is the errata for the freaking game. Now, granted, it's got 16 pages, but before that freaks you out, some of the pages look like that. Okay? So it's just it's a teeny blurb. I don't know why. I guess it's just for being able to flip through quicker is why they did that instead of just putting. I mean, why don't all the pages look like this? I don't know. But just the fact is that there's that much errata in a game, and we have no idea how much of that we missed. Because there was a couple times we were like, something doesn't sound right. Oh, there's an errata for that.
So, like, one thing with the errata, like, if it's a game, like, I don't know, Stone Age, which is just a contained game, if there was an errata that was like, you get 2 stones instead of 1, that is easy to remember. I'll always remember the errata. But this game has multiple branches, and the errata is on different branches, so I might not even see some of this stuff. So that makes me not even, like, I don't want to read through that errata before I start playing. And then because of that, it's like, oh, well, if I don't read it beforehand, then I need, every time I do something in the game, I need to check the errata. And
right,
that just gets boring.
And when you're immersed in a game, the last thing you're thinking about is every time that I have to open a new pack, do I need to look at this? Which actually, here's an errata, card pack B. There's errata for B6 and B7. B has a ton of numbers.
At least 13.
So you have to, I just need to remember to look at those 2 cards. Card pack CC. There's an errata for 17. CE. There's an errata for 10. Plot book on 2A. But only 2A04 and 2A06. So that is totally going down what you just said.
Yep.
These errata only apply if you go down a certain road. So I pick a road and then I have to, look real quick, and it's easy to glance over this and be like, oh crap, I missed it. We went, as a matter of fact, I think 2A06 rings a bell. I think we might have done that. I don't know. That was episode 2. Who cares? Another one in 7CO2, 7E03, envelope H, envelope I, envelope J, envelope K, envelope R.
Yeah, to me that's just way too much.
You know,
at that point, I would just say, like, print an update pack and send it out.
I don't know if we said it when, because it was a while ago when we did the intro and all that, if we made a comment about it. But to me, it felt like this got shoved out the door. Like, corporate said, I don't care, you guys have been sitting on this thing too long, it needs to go out so that we can recoup R&D on this, on this thing, because whatever. Now, whether or not it was fine-tuned, and let's say the errata all went away, if there's nothing, if the game still would have played like it is, I still wouldn't give it a huge positive review. I mean, we both did say that there were certainly some positive aspects of it, but as a gaming experience as a whole, especially after loving Dead of Winter so much, and this is supposed to be a Crossroad game, and if all the Crossroad games are going to go to this story-driven style like this, I don't know that I'll buy anymore. Yeah. Because I like Dead of Winter, because I can pick that up, and I don't have to worry about a storybook. The story's contained in whatever mission you're doing. Mm-hmm. I think Jeb and I have played Intro Mission because we've taught the game I bet we've played intro mission 5 times, and it's not that we don't like it either. I mean,
that's actually one of the few games where I don't mind
playing the intro one
yeah.
again and again and again, especially if you watching the people that you're teaching getting like, oh, I love this, because then when you sit them back at the table, it's like, let's do a different mission, and they're going to be all for it, and it doesn't get boring. There's enough randomness in the game. Still feels like you're immersed in the situation that they have. And yeah, I don't know. So no expansion on this game for me, which is supposed to add more people. Oh, okay. More people that can't do stuff?
Well, I was going to say that's one of the things that annoyed me was, well, to start with, I did like that the Crossroads deck was small compared to Dead of Winter, because that meant there was more of a chance that the story stuff would happen. I don't know if it was just the way we played or what, but I felt like not much story stuff happened, even though the deck was small. And then when you brought up the people, we were all assigned a person in our division, and I did see where that would have come into play with the cards, but why? Like, it's kind of like they just made that whole mechanic because they knew they were going to do like an expansion. Because there's nothing that throughout the entire game we never got another person, and I think there's only 5 characters.
There's only one more person in the
box. So it's like you're not going to get multiple people.
No,
so
you're
it's
not
like they had to be thinking expansion to do it.
And along the lines of the Crossroad cards that Jeb was talking about, I mean, the mechanic was there with a small deck, taking out cards and stuff like that. They had the mechanic there to try to force you to get stuff that drove the story, was particular to you, unlike if you're familiar with Dead of Winter. It's hit or miss. There's tons of characters, but even when this stuff doesn't go off, it doesn't affect the game. I feel like I don't even know how, like you said, you've got a tiny thing, and I felt like it only slightly went off more than playing with a gigantic deck.
The last 2 sessions, I was the top officer, so I had the ability to, if the first one didn't trigger, look at the second one, and I did that every time, and I was not able to hit the one card that was specific to my person. And I was just like, it was disheartening, I guess.
Let's talk about also getting cards that tell you to do something that you don't even have the envelope for. I don't think that should happen in one of these games. Or put something on the card. I mean, maybe it's in the rule book that says you might run into something. It probably is. But
if you didn't watch, what happened was in the last scenario, we drew a Crossroad card and it said something about infection tokens, and we never saw an infection token our entire campaign.
Yeah, so if we were supposed to open that envelope, then we totally missed it. I mean, like
I read everything every time.
Exactly. So I don't know how we would have missed opening an envelope. Certainly possible, but my point is, if it's telling you to put Crossroad cards in, unless I read something that says only put cards this through this, I don't like the idea of at least having the card you could have indicated at the bottom. This might not be in play. Or something to the effect of, if infection tokens aren't in play, ignore this card. Super easy to fix.
Put the card back on the bottom and draw the next one, so it's not like a wasted...
So it's not a wasted thing.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think, who was it? Your ability? You were the only one who had the ability to cycle through Crossroad cards faster, right?
Yeah, because I was top officer.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So, but that can rotate between people. But, playing the game, if you know about the game and you feel like, okay, they set the game up for the first couple of rounds to make it so you can do stuff, right? Because you only have 2 critical tasks, then you only have 3 critical tasks, and then it gets hard. However, every single storyline put some kind of ridiculous thing that you have to do in the first 2 rounds.
Or you get a setback.
And the
word setback in your mind tells you, I don't want that. So
exactly.
You're going to avoid trying to get that.
Maybe somebody's going to come up and go, oh, well, that was the intention for you to not... How am I supposed to know? There's no other game that, like, oh, screw that, I'm going to go for these.
Let's
It's
get
a co-op
so we
game.
can get something.
I mean, you're not, like, the whole idea is to work together, not like, oh, I'm going to blow through these operation tasks so I can get as many merits as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's not in everybody that I game with a co-op game. Nobody's trying to do that. I mean, it happens a lot of times just because I just got
I'm playing with Mickey.
No, I mean, no, seriously. Like,
Yeah.
even the last game, I turned around when you were so far up the board, and I just was like,
Yeah,
oh,
you
wow.
guys
You
didn't
just
give
went
me crap on that, and I was like, well, that's good because I'm just trying to complete these to get the mission, the group thing done.
well, that's, I mean, and that was part, it just happened that the way that that cycle worked was, I think, because you got to go last. Or almost last every time. That helped. When you were making your decisions, you had to be like, oh, wait a second, in 2 turns, because Mickey's going to go next, and then the bad guys are going to go. I got to do whatever I can, because the bad guys are just going to screw me over anyway, so there was part of that. Yeah, I don't even... These things...
Yeah, I was going to say, the mission deck, I think it was awful. I mean, it was bad having those every time because they screw you every round. But the thing is, there's only, I think, enough for 3 rounds until you start cycling. You shuffle the deck and get them again. And that deck was the same for
all the whole
4
game.
or 5. It was the very last scenario was when they switched it with a new one.
To make them even worse.
Yeah, so I would have thought that after every scenario, they would be like, let's throw in a couple cards to each deck. That way there's a little more variety, but it didn't really do that. It was mostly the Crossroads deck that got changed up.
I mean, you could look at it like, okay, well, if you know what's potentially coming out. It didn't negate the fact is that some of the stuff was just so horrible. Again, it made you feel like you were doing nothing in the game.
Right.
Like, it's like, oh, after round 2. Remember what I just said about round 2 in almost every single scenario. They had some kind of ridiculous requirement that you needed to do or you would get a setback.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, I'm going to try to do this. Oh, after round 2, I'm not going to have any resources anyways. And also, I know after round 2, we're going to have some new type of thing that we're going to have. So probably most of the cards in my hand, if I get lucky, will get done. If not, because when you first play, you open those operation tasks, you're like, ooh, I can get 15 points with this, I can get 9 points with this. You play one round and you're like, can I have the ones that are only worth 3 because I might be able to do them because
and
they
those
only
don't
need
even
a couple
have
things.
effects. Like at least
know.
the higher up ones can help. But...
Right, the higher up ones can help, but then, like we've been flapping the whole time, it's like, oh, but I can't get any resources because this effect's going to go off. These clowns are going to take something. Not that, like, this was a wonderful idea. Like,
oh yeah, I
the
thought
whole
the outsider
Outsiders
thing was pretty good. I mean, it's cool that they had the
that
return.
we're assuming that die over there on the table, the green one that Jeb's holding up. You probably can't see that it's green, but it's like an olive color or something like that.
It was
never
with the white dice in the package.
We're assuming that also had something to do with infections, and I'm guessing that if you're infected, roll the dice every turn if you on such and such a number, something to that effect. We don't know. We didn't look up the rules. Because we never opened it, and that's to be expected of one of these games too. I mean, that makes for good replay value, and this thing is.
You said 8 different endings, and we got
it did.
One of the worst.
The very if you didn't watch the last episode, the very last episode, I read this whole epilogue type of thing, and then at the bottom there said, oh, we hope you enjoyed your experience, and they really, really pushed the fact is that this can be reset and played again because there's multiple endings, and the smallest of nuances on your choices can change it. So, okay, fine, we go back to the beginning, and instead of going after Karen, we go after something else, or however, that's all fine and dandy. Still doesn't negate the fact that I didn't like the way it played at all. No,
and to have to play 7 more rounds just seems like a chore to me. And I'm like, I don't want to spend my time doing that just
Yeah,
to get another ending that
like,
is a chance to be just as crappy.
After the cool factor went away and it started to feel like we couldn't, and I would say that was probably after second session, it started to feel like, oh, even though some of the story stuff was really cool, like, the storyline really was cool.
Yeah.
But I felt like, I mean, this first game in a long time that everybody got to the table and it was like, I wish this thing would just end.
Yeah, in the last session, if you couldn't tell from the video, like, all of us were just like, we want this to end. It's just so painful.
Yeah, and especially, and I don't, like, is there a different path that it would have been like, oh, your victory's going to be really easy? I don't, well, then that almost is just as dumb. I want the final thing to at least be
Yeah,
kind of hard.
But I felt like it got more ramped up than it needed to be, because most of the time it was just like player count +1 is how many checks we needed, and in the last one it was
plus
times 3. It's like, oh, okay, so what normally would have been 5 is now 12. It's like, and they only gave you one extra round.
Oh, and don't forget, you still had to pay attention to the
aggressive outsiders too.
Well, and the missions.
Yeah.
All of that stuff still came out, and you weren't allowed to let the ship get to a certain amount.
Or you auto lose. So
it just occurred to me. The other thing is that I don't think, your barrack sheets they only had one special ability. That's it. So those weren't even your character, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I mean, the one ability, but again, it felt like where the ability thing should be this awesome thing, and most of them were kind of awesome, but you were still stuck on when it was almost like a desperation type of thing. I can only use this in desperate measures because I have to do other stuff, where I feel like that should have been almost like, I want to do this every turn. Not that I don't want to do it, but it's like, oh, but I can't use this really cool ability that I have right now, because if I use the really cool ability, then this is going to break, or this is going to break, or that is going to break.
So the manufacturing one, which was what I was for the last two, it was you gain 5 nuts and bolts, and if you don't, or if you get rid of 3 of them, then somebody can take the schema action. And at that point in the game, I was like, nobody cares about that. It was pretty much a worthless extra ability for me. It would have been good in the early sessions, but I feel like it needed to upgrade or change.
Which one was the schema action?
These where you draw.
Oh, your other 2 cards.
In the last 2 sessions, nobody was really caring about that. It was mostly about getting guns for the last one. So I mean, why couldn't manufacturing be like, oh yeah, now you can?
Jeb brings up a good point with the cards too. A lot of the cards have good powers, and you would think like, oh, at least once around, take some time to dig. Again, you can't.
Right.
The only time you drew cards is like, okay, I finally get a chance to do a mission that I got to get out of my hand. I mean, again, concept-wise, having the players always constantly having to like pay attention to something, good. But I just felt like you can't make it so stupid that it's like that you feel like you're getting. If you watch any of our other series, we play Arkham Horror a lot, the card game. Arkham is known for being brutal.
Yeah.
But I always feel like I can do something. I always feel like I got a chance.
Yep.
Towards the end of this game, I didn't feel like I was able to do
anything. It gets to that, you have that feeling where it's like, I could play through and waste another 2 hours just to fail, or I could just say, I give up and I fail, because you know you're going to lose. So it's like, why even bother playing? At least, but with Arkham, it's like, oh, there's a sliver. You can like escape or something like that. So why not try for that if you can't kill the monster?
I think at one point you were also like, I wish there had been like you could unlock some more dice. That would have been nice, because once you're at like 4 critical tasks and you have the missions and whatever the book deals you, it's like, there's multiple turns where it's easy to use 2 dice.
Mm-hmm.
Helping somebody out, doing a thing on your own. There's just not... I mean, if you get a bad critical task, then you could have every single one of them that requires 3 dice. That's 12 dice. How many dice in total are even... do you play with? You get...
I
two
think,
of them
3
are,
colonists, the officer, and then the robot.
If
and then
you
2
get the robot.
Yeah.
So...
And getting the robot, you have to give up a die, so...
Exactly. Okay, yeah, the robot can be split on many things. That's a pretty cool mechanic. But, still, it just... That's all I can say.
One thing, the file cards, like a lot of them, or there's some of them that are like, when you complete a task, you get like plus whatever bonus merits. And in the beginning, that's great because you're trying to like build up. But then at the very end, it was more of a hindrance. I was like, well, I want a file card because I know there's some that reduce cost of tasks and stuff like that.
I don't care about merits.
Yeah, anymore. I don't care about merits anymore. And it's one of those things with thinking back, it's like, why didn't at like episode 3 they're like get rid of the starter cards of the files and add new ones? Because I don't think the file deck ever changed, did it?
I don't think they did. But the merits and the ranking stuff, what you were talking about, led me to think of these. I feel like the abilities of your officers are just okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were like pretty good. Jeb went through more of the deck than I did. I kind of got to the point where it's like, I don't think any of these are going to make a hill of beans a difference. He pointed out that like there's 2 copies of a card of each resource that you can get. There's a card that says gain 5 of them.
Once per episode.
Right. And once you're at the point where like the bad guys are stealing from you, and the way to steal back was so ridiculous too. This goes back to another thing about using the die. You had to have at least, at a minimum, the spot had 3 seats in it. So the best you could do would be a robot and 1 other person.
Yeah.
So you either do that yourself. So 2 dice is the best that you could do. But you kind of wanted 3. And then the way they did at least at the end, with them defending, was there a defending mechanism if you would have tried to steal earlier?
Yeah, it's, they roll all their dice, and then whatever that number totals to is how many other resources you can't take.
Was that but yeah, I know, I thought that was that always, is that the whole rule through the whole game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, once that we unlock that thing, yes.
Okay, so first of all, that was pretty bad, and the fact that they were taking them. So they gave you a way to take them back, which is cool.
But who has the time for it?
Right. That's my thing. It's like, if you put the stuff into here, oh, I used all my dice to get my resources. Great, now I don't have a die to actually put it somewhere so I can spend the resources on a task.
Oh, their turn, they steal the resources back.
Yeah. I mean, that's what could have happened. I mean, we did 1 round where we made sure that they had all gone and done something, stole for free, and then we're able to do, I think we completed 2 tasks, because it was me and Steven that actually did it. And so we added 2 check marks, and again, we needed 12. I think we ended up with 5 or 6.
7. I think we got to 7.
Ooh.
Yeah, over halfway.
Yeah. That's
something
awful.
That would have taken like 6 rounds.
No,
they would have done in 3.
You know, it really started to get frustrating at the point where it was like after round 1 we had 2, and then so the average for the next round
5.
went up to 5 each.
That's not happening.
Each round.
And you got to spend dice to be able to get more operations tasks. It's not like you can just get those for free.
Right. So there was no way to freely get those. And remember, unless you had 1 person trying to do those, everybody would have needed another operation task.
Yep.
That means that everybody's got to spend the die to go to the stupid meeting.
Yep.
And then, then you probably would have only had to do that once, because you would have told you right, because you would tell everybody you got to take 2, even if it ends up posing you. And we're well aware of that. At that point in time, we would have let everything else go out the door. But the way that the rules were written, unless we read something wrong, is having to mitigate the other stuff it didn't matter. I mean, I don't think any of us cared that personally we would have gone down in merits. There seemed to be no indication that the last round that any of that was
important. I don't even know what the point of merits in the last round was. I guess to do that final.
Well, I think it was more just because it was on the card. I mean, it's like, just do it because it says it.
Well, they have a thing where at the end of the entire story, you add up all your averages, and then you can see how well you did, like, overall.
Yeah, he's pretty sure we suck.
Yeah,
so,
I'm pretty sure we got
I don't know. Maybe people that watch this, you can write it in the comments.
Let us know if we screwed something up horribly. Nobody said anything yet.
No, I mean...
We only have 2 episodes up, so...
That's true, and... I mean, I did notice that there were some mixed reviews about the game, and
yeah, I remember when they first announced it, I was like, people were kind of hyped for it, and then I just never heard anything. And then Mickey was like, I got Gen 7, I was like, still haven't heard anything, but let's give it a shot.
Yeah, so. And I mean, when we looked at the overview and stuff, that it was, it sounded like, well, why isn't this taking off? So... just since they don't do the reviews for us, so here's Steven. Steven was, in a nutshell, he said the game was boring and aggravating. And obviously a thumbs down on that. He was like, you get set up with a ton of choices that are illusions, because you're never going to get to do them. And he said it felt repetitive. Gary, his first thought was it's a far cry from the first Crossroads game, which is, as we mentioned, is Dead of Winter. Dead of Winter is just a spectacular game. I know there are haters of it, but as a whole, you can't negate the fact that the majority of people that like this type of game love Dead of Winter. Mm-hmm. They just... And a lot of complaints about Dead of Winter is it's yet another zombie game, even though they don't call them zombies. It's kind of not the point. It's a survival game. I don't care what the bad guy is in it. But anyhow, Gary's other, his other big beef was that even though we were winning the entire story, which we kind of touched on, we end up losing anyways. Which in and of itself isn't necessarily that bad. I just feel like the way it was executed here didn't, like, it just felt like it wasn't close, and it should have been. And what Gary meant by that is, which I think we already mentioned we went through every single episode, 1 through 6, 0 setbacks, none. I mean, sure, there was a couple times when the ship took a hit, and by the end of the game, we had a couple places that were supposed to have permanent lockouts. But that's not a setback. Yeah. Those are just,
degrading.
Yeah, those, like, I mean, there is a war going on in the ship. It's kind of, I don't even think it would have made a difference if everything was open anyways. But that was his point.
That's a good point. A war's going on. Why are we still working on mission tasks? Like, I feel like that should just gone away during a war.
The personal mission things.
Yeah, it's like, we're trying to live.
Over. So that was what Gary said, that even though you won the whole time, it wasn't even like you got, like, they could have thrown you a bone. Here's a grenade launcher with one shot or something that does some,
that's what
roll the dice
will do. It's like if you unlock, like if you achieve this throughout the campaign, at the very end you get like a bonus.
You know what you got at the end of this? A whole lot of nothing. I don't know. It's just probably way too long to tell you that we didn't really care for it. Other than, like I said, pretty really cool theme.
Like switching out, like when robotics went to the really crappy robotics because somebody infected it, and now there's a chance your robots could like screw you over. Mm-hmm. That's cool. I think the guns, the manufacturing center switching so that you can now buy guns. Thematically, that makes sense. It's like, we didn't need guns before, but we're going to start making them now. So that stuff was really cool, in my opinion. It's just, like you said, the execution is...
Yeah, but then, so the whole gun theory. I got to go use a dice to get the guns.
Yep.
And then I only get 2 guns, so that's only 2 more dice that can be protected, then I gotta go get more guns. There wasn't anything, like, why wasn't there an inherent, or, I don't know, why didn't you get, like, 5 guns? I mean, nothing...
Well, that's what I thought the manufacturing robotics should have been like that. It's like, once you get, the guns are starting to be made, they should be able to produce guns. Like, maybe their personal thing is, you get 4 guns.
I don't know. I maybe somebody will pipe up and say that we played it wrong. I mean, we don't usually sit here and sound like whiny crybabies at a game, but I mean, and Jeb's seen me want to, chuck the entire Arkham cards across the room, but I'll still go back and play that. I don't want to play this again.
Yeah. Even if somebody was like, we played it all wrong, it's just left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, but how wrong could we have possibly played it? What did we misread? Did we miss an errata? If there's... Okay, let me just say, if there's an errata that made the game that screwed up, then I still have no love for something that has a rule that's that broken. So... Anyways, I don't, there is, we don't have to do the whole things to remember and all that because this was a series type of thing. I don't have much more to say other than I wouldn't, unfortunately, as much as I like Plaid Hat games, as much as I like the idea of Crossroads, please go back to, come up with a new Dead of Winter type of format. With some new mechanics or whatever, and just put the stories back on the cards or something, because this was not fun, and probably scared our new gamer person away. Steven's probably like, this is the games they play. I don't want to play anymore with them.
It's like, I just want to play D&D.
Yeah, I just want. Why don't we just play Pathfinder or D&D instead? This is. Well, most of the games that we play don't end up like that.
Yeah, that was rough. It's not fun giving a thumbs down, but yeah, I'd have to give it a thumbs down, just because if a game makes me not want to play it ever again, that's not deserving a thumbs up.
No, I'll probably, when I get around to it, I'll probably try to repack it up and see if anybody else wants to give it a whirl at a discount. Because I feel like I saw people out there that did enjoy it. Good for you. I mean, maybe you made some better decisions. Maybe our decisions were all wrong. Or maybe we should have house ruled something. I don't know. But, man, not a fun experience for just not well executed in our opinion. So, that's all I got.
I guess we should talk about where we're at with series. Just a quick thing.
Sure.
So we wrapped this one up. So we're still working on Gloomhaven. That's going to be going for a little bit.
That'll be going for a bit.
Arkham, I think we finished up a cycle. So either we'll be starting a new one or pausing for a little bit to try to get another series kicked off. I think that's all we have right now, right?
I think the Arkham stuff will continue because
we can do another cycle of it because we have
the thing next would be whatever board games.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Since we finished this, we got Seventh Continent was one we were talking about. Mm-hmm. We played Too Many Bones a couple times, and we enjoyed that.
That's awesome.
That would be another potential one. Shadows of Brimstone, Madara are a couple more that... Those are dungeon crawls, so they're a little bit more extensive.
Yep.
Oh, Deep Madness was another one. So... There's games that we have that we want to do series for. If there's anything that you'd like to see, just let us know of those. Or if there's another game, we can see if we can try to get that going. It's all time management, so
pretty much.
I guess that's all I have to say for it. So.
Yeah. So those are some of the things we're thinking about, and hopefully, if you're watching this just to see what. And you already played it. I hope your experience is better than ours. But
yeah, let us know.
Yeah, sure. All right, so that's it. No more Gen 7. Goodbye.